Good afternoon and welcome to Locked On NBA Daily. You know what they say, the trade deadline is silly season, and we have, guys, reached maximum silliness. James Harden wants a trade. Donovan Mitchell watch has begun. A ton of new trade deadline stories to discuss. Let's jump in.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome back to Locked On NBA Daily, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network, however you're tuning in, on YouTube or on your podcast app. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. I'm Wes Goldberg. Today, we're talking about James Harden and Donovan Mitchell as the new subjects of new trade deadline reports, and we're going to do a lightning round of other names that could get moved before Thursday's deadline here in a second. We're doing it with the help of Locked On's local experts. I have two of the best with me, as always. From the Locked On Nuggets podcast, senior NBA writer for the Action Network, it's Matt Moore. Matt?
You know, I just hate to see it. When obviously, everybody is always so mad when players show their politics. For James Harden to come out as an anti-environmentalist like this is just disgusting.
From the Locked On Bulls podcast, a Bulls and Bears creator for Bleacher Report, it's Haize.
Or maybe he is actually an environmentalist because he's taking a stance against Kawhi not planting those trees. Maybe that's what caused all this.
Yeah, I will not play with you. I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees. James Harden is the Lorax.
That was the last straw for James Harden, is not planting the trees. That's what did it. Let's just jump in. This James Harden thing is absolutely crazy. So we get the news late last night that Harden is seeking a trade from the Clippers. It seems to take the people on the Clippers by surprise. Ty Lue, Kawhi Leonard, they're asked about it after the game. Here's more from Locked On Clippers.
Like, my jaw was on the floor. I did not expect in a million years for James Harden to be in trade talks. I know I joked about it sometimes, like, oh, we should sell high and see what's out there. But this seemed like, oh, James Harden wants to leave, the way it was reported by Shams. James Harden wants to leave. So I'm thinking to myself, James Harden has said multiple times he wants to retire a Clipper. So why in the world would James Harden be asking out? So my first thought was it has to be something contract related. The Clippers want all the big time contracts like Kawhi and James off the books in 2027 to go a different direction. That's been pretty public information. James Harden is obviously not going to retire next year. He's too good still. So he probably wants a verbal guarantee because he's technically not extension eligible yet. But he probably wants a verbal guarantee similar to how the Philadelphia 76ers situation went, where he feels, okay, you guys are going to extend me.
So there's your explainer from Locked On Clippers, Matt. What do you make of this whole James Harden situation?
Okay, well, first off, I want to go back because here's what's really interesting. So Clutch Sports reported first initially that Azerly, who covers them for Clutch Points, reported that this has been like going for months, that Harden and they have been working on this for months. And then Brett Siegel at Clutch Points reported this was sudden and they were caught off guard and all the stuff about them being by surprise. Somebody's lying. And in that case, I will always believe that it's the Clippers and the team is lying and they knew about this for a couple of months.
The Clippers lying, Matt? No.
How funny would it be if the Clippers went on this big run because they knew it was ending? Because they were just like, let's go have some fun because James is out of here at the deadline. Like, really funny. My big on the Cavs side, I think, is really fascinating from this perspective. There's two theories on Harden. One is it's Occam's razor, and it's what there is talked about, and it's that he wants the money, right? Harden, he got caught in a situation in Houston where he knew that Tillman Fertitta was not going to want to pay the luxury tax. He had like openly talked about how he thought the salaries were too high. So what does Harden do? He jets to the Nets, right? The stuff in Brooklyn goes sideways with Kyrie Irving. What does he do? He jets to the Sixers. He feels Daryl Morey was unfair to him. I don't agree with that assessment. What does he do? He jets to the Clippers. Now the Clippers are like, we have to transition, man. Like, you're getting up there in age. We need to reset the franchise a little bit. I'm out. He always gets out before to wherever there is somebody that is willing to pay him money so he doesn't get caught again like he did with the Clippers. So that's the Occam's razor. The other one here, like there is a theory that the NBA is going to announce some sort of penalties from the aspiration investigation and Harden's getting out in front of that. I think Occam's razor is it's just the money. So from that perspective, like this makes sense for Harden to go ahead and get out. The question for me is just like, why are the Cavs the team that's willing to do it?
Yeah, I mean, from Shams a couple of hours ago is that he sat down with LA over the last few days to determine a long-term future, and he wants a multi-year contract with the championship contender, and the Clippers weren't willing to give that. Now, can he get that with the Cavs? Maybe. We'll see. They've shown a willingness to do that before. We talk about Donovan Mitchell here in a second, but I think this just comes down to James Harden putting himself in the best position to where he can try to compete. And I always respect a player that actually wants to compete for something over the back half of their career and isn't fine just skating by. And it does seem like that's really what Harden wants on top of money. He wants money. I'm not going to act like this. Money's very well driven in this, but it seems like he wants to get paid and he wants to compete for something. And he probably sees, like you said, the writing on the wall that that's just not going to happen in LA. But
they're good now. Like since mid-December, they're one of the best teams in basketball. They're 17-5. They've won enough games after a really bad start to get. They're basically locked into at least a play-in spot here. With the way that they're playing, they're 4th in net rating again since mid-December, 2nd in offense, 10th in defense. This team could win a play-in round. This team could, and then who knows, right? With the way that Kawhi, and by the way, Harden, 25-8 this year, he's playing well.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I've never been the biggest James Harden critic. It doesn't mean that I haven't been critical of him, but like I think there's definitely way more critical people out there on James Harden than I am. I think if you're a Harden defender, like a Harden apologist, you could look at what Matt was talking about too with Houston and Brooklyn and Philadelphia. Like you can look at those individual cases and say, I get it, I get it, I get it. I don't get this one, man. Like this team is good. It's in the middle of the year. There was nothing bubbling here.
They're still 3 games below 500 in the Western Conference. And reportedly, he wants to go to the Eastern Conference scene where, of course, the path to win the title is much easier in the East.
Like the Cavaliers are better. Let's not get this twisted. The Cavaliers are a way better team. Like,
but that's not how it works. You don't just be like, I want to play for that team now. Like your team is playing
well.
James
Harden,
have you not paid attention to the history of the NBA? Yes, it is like that.
Yes, they do. That's exactly what they do.
Exactly what the league does. And
listen, he's just
quitting,
off
man.
the
This
fat
is
suit
quitting
right now. The fat suit is getting ready to get loaded up right now, man.
Yeah, and like here's the thing. I look at it this way. The Clippers have been awesome. They really have been. And they might be able to continue this through the rest of the season and into the playoffs. Eventually the music stops for these teams. You do not come in and suck this bad for 2 months, get super hot and ride it to a title. It doesn't happen. Like go back and look and find me that team.
Okay. But like to think that this is anything other than the contract extension.
Sure. He wants to be he'd rather be in LA than Cleveland. Yeah, it's about the money. It absolutely is about the money. 100%. Like
I don't want to hear you're playing well. I don't want to hear that it has anything to do with competition or winning. I don't.
Well, yeah, but I don't think that he's not. But you're parsing it as like, but he's winning a team that's playing so well.
They are.
Hey, cool.
That's why I don't want to. That's why I don't want to hear the winning part of it. You're winning now. You're winning basketball games now. I don't want to hear that. I want to
3 games below 500. West 3 games in the West.
Again, like you can't be. This is where fans, I think, go sideways. Is when we start doing the recency bias thing of like, look how good they've been for a month. Cool, neat. Like
they're okay. Let's talk about the teams that make sense though for James Harden. We mentioned the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're the team that's out there. Darius Garland. It feels like, Matt, maybe correct me if I'm wrong here, that a third team needs to get involved here if it's a Garland for Harden swap, because Garland's money goes through that 2027 offseason. They're kind of in the same. They kind of have the same concern with Garland there. But still, I think maybe the more interesting part about this is Harden for Cleveland. I know there's a Donovan Mitchell factor in this that we'll hold for the next segment, but like, what do you think?
I mean, you don't need anything else here. The money works straight up. I just continue to be like, why would you, if you're doing this, if you're Cleveland, are you really like James Harden? Like that's, yeah. If that's it, I am kind of like, this reeks of a little bit of desperation, which we can talk about. The money works straight up. If you're the Clippers, this is amazing. Like, this is the other part of this, Wes. This is incredible. Like, your entire thing was, we don't own any of our picks. Our best players are getting older and can't stay healthy. Oh, God. And we're about to get hit with the penalties from the aspiration scandal. Oh, God. Darius Garland, it's like, hey, let's get him healthy. Let's rest him up. Let's get his foot right. And then we have a young guy who's made an all-star team with another 7 years of good play ahead of him. It instantly rechanges their window. It's great for them. For the Cavs, I'm like, trading Darius Garland, a small guard who can't stay on the floor. Good. Trading him for James Harden, one of the notorious worst playoff droppers in NBA history. Not great. Like, my whole thing was you can't defend when you have Donovan and Darius on the floor together. But at least Darius tries.
Yep.
That's my concern here.
Haize.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely concern there. I'd say this, for the Clippers, getting Garland back offers them to get a younger player. Not to say that they can set their rebuild around him, but hey, if he shows a season of being healthy, you can turn around and flip him next year at the trade deadline. He is a flippable asset. All he has to do is be healthy, and I think that's probably what also entices the Clippers a little bit.
I want to keep this conversation going because I want to talk about teams outside of Cleveland. That makes some sense for James Harden. But Harden, like we talked about, not the only guard in trade rumors today. This could be it for maybe Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland. So these things are a little bit related. We're going to continue this conversation coming up here next. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure that you are right in the middle of the action with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everybody's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Welcome back to Locked On NBA Daily, best way to support the show. Subscribe on YouTube. We are Monday to Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, wherever you get your podcast. We'll be going live at 1 o'clock here on YouTube the day of the deadline with all the latest that's happening then, so you're going to make sure to tune in. Let's keep talking about James Harden here. If not the Cleveland Cavaliers, Haize, is there a team that makes sense for James Harden when you kind of look at the trade market?
I mean, I've heard, I've read some stuff that another team that entices him were the Wolves. I don't know if I like that fit next to. I want Ant next to somebody really good, not James Harden. I don't want a playoff dropper there. Man, I don't know. Like, I honestly, James Harden's such a unique player that maybe Atlanta, they do need another ball distributor there. Maybe they can work something out with Porzingis' contract. So I'd probably say Atlanta is the one that I go with.
Man, James Harden with the Atlanta nightlife.
Trae Young out, James Harden in.
Send him home. Send him home. Send him home. Send him home. Houston. They need a point guard.
Oh God, no.
KD and Harden. Third time's a charm, baby.
You know what?
I love it.
I'm gone.
Come on.
I love it.
Great. Ime Udoka says, I need a guy I know I can trust. Gets James Harden, Kevin Durant. They ship out Alperen Sengun to the Clippers.
Is Jeff Green still on that team?
Which would be amazing to trade Alperen Sengun for James Harden. They ship him out, or Jabari Smith Jr. if you want to try and be a little bit more realistic about
That's
it.
too much.
Here's the other thing.
The Van Vliet contract.
But I got like a fun one for you. What if it's like one, Fred has a no trade clause.
LA.
Second, I've heard Ime has said that he has told FEV he's not going to try and trade him. Like, that's been, I think that's off the table. But what about a 4-way deal? Okay.
I'm listening.
Giannis Antetokounmpo to Cleveland.
Okay.
Yep. Giannis Antetokounmpo to Cleveland. Darius Garland to the Houston Rockets. And the assets from Houston to Cleveland, or to Milwaukee and the Clippers. You spread those out and you're able to get it done.
Where does Harden go?
Harden winds up in he winds up in Cleveland too. They ship out Mobley too. Mobley and Allen and Garland. Come on. Get down with it. Come on.
All right. Well, let's talk about the Donovan Mitchell part of this too, because we do have a new report as of this morning that the Cavaliers are keenly aware that Donovan Mitchell is, I don't know, are we on Donovan Mitchell watch now, apparently? Because they're looking at Mitchell being extension eligible this summer, And there's a feeling around the league, according to Tim Bontemps over at ESPN, that if the Cavaliers flame out again in the playoffs, that they're not totally comfortable with the idea that Donovan Mitchell will for sure pick up his extension. And at that point, all bets are off. So I think premature to call it Donovan Mitchell watch, Haize.
Yeah, I think it's a little premature, but you definitely have to have your antennas up on it because it could all change very quickly. And Cleveland, with the way their season's gone, like they haven't been completely terrible, but early exit for them would not surprise me this season.
Is this why they're reportedly in on James Harden? Is this just sort of desperation? We got to maximize the Mitchell window.
I think it has to be.
That's what it smells like, right? I got a question for you, Haize. You got to choose. You keep Mobley, you're going to lose Mitchell because you can't build enough around him. You want to improve around and keep Mitchell, you got to move Mobley. What do you do?
I'm not moving Mobley.
Okay.
Yeah,
See,
I'm not moving.
This is
Mobley.
like, I think this is a dividing line amongst NBA people. I think this is a very strong dividing line because I do think that half the league is like, look, Mobley's really good, but he's not a consistent 25 points per game scorer. Like he's not a franchise you can build a team around him guy. He hasn't shown that. He's gotten better, but it hasn't been linear. It's like he gets better and then he gets worse and then he gets better and then he gets worse and he's still trending up. And there's still like so much upside and a lot of people thought he was the best player in that draft. I think that's the question here. Is ideally you would want to build a team around Mitchell and Mobley. I'm not sure that they are on a timeline where they can do that. So they may have to choose between those two things, which is where I think this gets really fascinating from all sides.
Is Donovan Mitchell the best player you can't win a championship with?
I think you can win
as your number one guy.
I think you can win a championship with him, so I don't believe it. Like I just think there's nothing in you can't point me at anything in Donovan's game to be like you can if you want to be like, well, his defense. Steph Curry's defense is worse. He's smaller and slower than Donovan, and you can win a championship with Steph. So you can't point at the defense. Is it his offense? Is he inefficient? No, he's not a chucker. Is he a black hole? Does he not pass? No, he's a great passer. I don't have anything I can point to and say that you can't win a championship with Donovan Mitchell.
What do you think, Haize?
I don't know because I get what you're saying as far as I think we eventually also have to count in just what we've seen with our eyes. Donovan Mitchell has not made it far in the playoffs, so I think that's enough of a question if you can win a championship with him.
But like with Joel Embiid, I can point you to his Game 7 performances about how he gets frustrated when he doesn't get the officiating that he wants with his injury availability. I don't have any of that with Donovan. Like I hear you on the results of the results, but I can't look at Donovan's play. Like with Harden, you can do this. You can be like, look, man, he sucked in that 2016 series versus the Spurs. Like he sucked that year. He was just not good. 2015. No, 17. The 2017 series versus the Spurs. Like he just sucked. He's had series where he just sucked, right? I haven't had a series with Donovan Mitchell where I was like, he was bad. I just haven't.
Yeah, this is a guy who's on MVP ballots right now, right?
Yeah.
Like for a couple of years. So I'm not really sure where I fall in the Donovan Mitchell thing. I think I lean more with Matt. Like I think if you build the right team around him, that's what's so interesting about this James Harden thing is that's not the right team to build around him.
Right.
I think with Mitchell, it's defense around him, shooting. Like that's kind of what you need. And it felt like the Cavs were going in the right direction with the Keon Ellis move and stuff like that. Like those are the kind of role players that do make sense. This Harden thing just reeks of desperation. I mean, Haize, I understand the idea of we're asking Donovan Mitchell to do too much right now with Garland in and out with these injuries. So we just need somebody to lighten the load on him. But this is a pretty dramatic way to do that. It's one thing to trade for Dennis Schroeder. It's another thing to go in and be a James Harden team.
Yeah, I mean, it is a dramatic move, but sometimes, like, let's be clear, like, there were some talks about them breaking this team up before they extended everyone. So, like, I think you're just coming back to that realization. Like, they locked everybody in. They wanted to give the team runway, and now you've seen, like, I get it, injuries have been a thing, but at some point you have to realize this version of the team is never going to be fully healthy, and you have to make a move. Now, I don't know if James Harden is not the play I would make, but I'm not mad at them making a swing.
I can't get there. Like I'm with you, Wes. I'm just like, you cannot seriously be like, we're making a move to win a championship. What are you doing? Getting James Harden at the end of his career when he wants to get paid. Come on, man. Like, come on. Like, again, I have watched more James Harden tape than any other player in my career because I did so much work on his 2006 17 and 18 and 16, 17, 18 MVP seasons. Like I watched all of his, like I know that guy's game really well. And I know the good and the bad. And there are scenarios where Harden can win a championship, but it's going to have to be as the third player on a team. And if you're like, well, he is Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley and James Harden, but he's still so ball dominant. That's why it worked with Kawhi, is because it's like Harden runs the system because he's the system player. And then Kawhi just fills in with like, I'll grab the ball and isolate and hit some shots. That works. The Cavs have a system. This does not work with that system.
A system player. I am a system player.
Yep.
Well, we'll be monitoring James Harden and I suppose Donovan Mitchell over the next weeks, months, whatever. We've got more names to watch, though, ahead of the trade deadline. Silly season is upon us. We'll talk about it next. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Daily is brought to you by Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades that you can make to your business. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Q-U-O, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number, so nothing gets missed. Everybody sees the full conversation thread, which makes replies faster and more personal, and it works right from your phone or your computer, and you can even keep your existing number. And Quo's smart AI tools automatically log calls, summarize conversations, and highlight next steps so details never slip through the cracks. It's no surprise that Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnba. That's Quo, QUO.com/lockedonnba. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's changing with Game Time. Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. Using the app is simple. Pull up the Game Time app, pick an upcoming NBA game, and get tickets locked in within minutes. You'll love seeing the all-in price up front, meaning no surprise fees at checkout. And with their seat views, you can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you'll have confidence in your purchase. If you want to save a little extra, check out Zone Deals. You choose the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save. Everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not gametime.com. We'll be right back. Thanks for making Locked On NBA Daily your first listen. The Locked On Podcast Network has a show for every team, so check out Locked On Clippers and Locked On Cavs for more on today's top stories. Quick lightning round-ish kind of thing here to end the show today. Other names on the trade market ahead of Thursday's NBA trade deadline. The first one that we want to talk about here, Domantas Sabonis. The Sacramento Kings are reportedly listening to offers on Sabonis and basically their entire roster right now. Matt, what are you hearing on Sabonis in terms of potential destinations for him?
Michael Scott reported this morning on Hoops Hype, and I've heard the same, which is that the Raptors are pretty far along in this process. They've got a framework kind of built out for what that deal looks like. The holdup is that they got to be able to move Jakob Poeltl, and that's a lot of money to be able to move. It's a lot of money with a lot of years left. So if they can find someone to take Jakob Poeltl, who is still a quality rotation center on a big money contract, teams do want centers, so I wouldn't blame it. I wouldn't be shocked if that happened, but that is going to kind of be one of the restrictions. I have heard that Memphis has actually had conversations with the Kings about Sabonis as well. I'm not sure who's involved there, but I do think that that's been a potential move. And I think that probably what that comes down to is Memphis being like, we'll send you Ja, and the Kings being like, you should send us Jaren. And that's probably where that flames out. But I do think that's possible. I expect Sabonis to be moved before the deadline, though. That is something that I kind of expect at this point. I wonder if another team will get in on this and try and work their way into Sabonis, because I do think this is a great buy low opportunity to get a guy who's a monster on the glass, can score and pass. If you can cover for him defensively, he's a real weapon.
Haize, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Sabonis, he's a good player. He can help a lot of teams out there. I think Sabonis, it would signal the Kings actually doing what they should do with the roster and completely resetting and trading off everyone except a few players. So, Sabonis, I like him for a lot of teams. I think that if you can get him to Toronto, I like that move a lot for them.
He's a floor raiser kind of guy, right?
sure.
Not necessarily a ceiling raiser, but those floor raisers, they kind of get a bad rap sometimes because there's obvious holes in their games when you get to a certain point, especially in the playoffs. But Sabonis, man, like there's something to be said about every single night. You're going to get physicality, you're going to get rebounding, you're going to get scoring. He's a good passer at his position and all these things. The Toronto fit is interesting, Haize, because it feels like they have a lot of these kinds of pretty good to very good players, a lot of players who are short of like perennial all-star, superstar caliber type of guy. I guess the idea is that hopefully Scotty Barnes develops into that. But adding Sabonis to that Toronto Raptors roster, you said you like it, but they have like a lot of these kinds of guys.
They do, but they found ways to make it work before. And I do think Sabonis with his ability in pick and roll, staying near the rim, he takes less and less threes. He actually stays around the rim. I think he can help that team a lot with the post presence.
I mean, I like it. I like the combo of Colin Murray, Boyles, and Sabonis. I think that's a really good combo.
I'm trying to think of another team, Matt, because you hinted at maybe there's other teams that can come out. And we know the Celtics have been interested in potentially getting a center.
So one team I think that's actually making more calls than people realize, I think, is Phoenix. They're looking for a power forward upgrade. If you want to move Sabonis to 4 and pair him there, like Devin Booker, Domantas Sabonis, not a bad combo. You get all those defenders, all that length. You keep Dylan Brooks. Maybe it's Jalen Green going to the Kings. A lot of opportunity, I think, there because like Jalen has played well for them in the 15 minutes or whatever he's been able to play for them. But I still don't think that they're so high on him as to not move him. That to me makes a lot of sense for, hey, that's a team that could actually make an upgrade and then pair him with the defenders that they have. Pair him. If you play him at 5, you can play Oso at 4. If you play him at 4, you can play Mark Williams at 5. A lot of opportunities, I think, there for Phoenix to be able to get in on that deal.
Haize, I want to talk about Ja Morant because according to the latest reporting, not a lot of suitors in for Ja Morant right now. He was on the bench for the Grizzlies last night in their win over the Timberwolves. But are you expecting Ja Morant? I mean, we've talked so much about him, and it seemed like for a moment there, it seemed like he was definitely going to get traded. But what do you think happens now at the deadline with Ja?
I don't think Ja gets moved at the deadline. I think if Ja gets moved, it's going to be probably an off-season thing. I think maybe at the draft, something like that is where you see Ja move. I don't think there's interest in it. It's a huge risk. I think teams are going to want to see how he finishes this season. And they have to talk themselves into Ja, I think is what's going to happen there.
Unless someone comes in with a last few days / last minute offer where they're actually willing to give up assets to take the risk, which sometimes happens. Like right now, it's all salary dumps. That's it. It's just salary dump. There's nothing of value. You're not getting anything with it. And if you're the Grizzlies, I just don't know that you can move Ja Morant for nothing. So yeah, like I think the most likely thing is that he's played his last game as a Memphis Grizzly. He doesn't play the rest of the year. And then some team at the draft or in free agency when all the trades happen comes in and is like, all right, we'll take the risk on him. And that to me seems more likely. Because then you have teams that swing out on the other deals or in free agency and are like, all right, we're going to pivot and talk ourselves into Ja.
Last name I want to talk about here, guys, and it's not the biggest name. Maybe it is. I don't know. This guy's a future Hall of Famer. Klay Thompson. Hasn't been talked about a ton, but there was a report this morning that the Mavericks are listening on a lot of guys, Daniel Gafford, Klay Thompson being among them. I'm very interested in what happens with Klay, if only because I'm very interested in what happens with Klay, generally speaking. But this guy's a future Hall of Famer. He's still a really good three-point shooter. He's playing well for Dallas coming off the bench right now. And there was that story earlier in the year that, Klay does want to still play in playoff games. He wants to compete. Haize, is there a team out there that makes sense for you when you're looking at potential Klay Thompson fits?
The Golden State Warriors.
Oh,
bring
him home.
Yeah.
Bring him home. Like literally, that's the only team that comes to mind that makes sense for Klay for me. Like I'm sure there's some other teams. Matt's going to have one, but finding a way to get him back to Golden State would be something I'd be very interested in.
All right, so like, what are you looking for when you add Klay? Okay, he's not really a defender anymore, which is a shame because he used to be so good at it, but it really was a problem. If you're trying to improve your three-point shooting and you're just trying to add more volume and opportunity, Detroit may not be a terrible idea, right? Detroit's, from what everyone's saying, is like Detroit's backing away from the table and they're like, we're good. They do this with like every year. They want to do something and they can't get it done. Then they back away a few days before. And they're pretty honest about that. Like they don't change that. They're not one of these things that's like, yeah, we're not going to do anything. Surprise. So it sounds like they're just going to go ahead and play out this thing with Tobias Harris. Orlando, maybe. I just don't know what the contracts look like. Like, who are you giving up to take on that kind of money there? I wouldn't mind seeing him in Miami. Like, wouldn't be like the worst idea, but again, I don't know what Miami has to move in the like. That honestly might be one of them. Is like, hey, if no one else takes the Rozier contract, dump him to Dallas for Clay. That's a really good return on value there for the Heat. Kind of gets them an actual rotation player if they don't have to give up too much else. I don't want the Wizards to get him. Let's have him on a competing team. The Sixers are another interesting one. They've obviously done business before with the Grimes deal, right? Caleb Martin. So there's like an opportunity there. I think that kind of speaks to it. Sixers might be the most interesting one is like, if you run into the playoffs and you're like, hey, we have Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe, and Joel Embiid and Paul George after a suspension, after a nice long rest, and Klay Thompson. Okay. You got some guys that are ready for a playoff run. Philadelphia is kind of an interesting one.
I like Philly, Haize. One other team. What about Cleveland? Right? They haven't had that 3-point shooter. Max Strus hasn't played for him this year. They could use somebody like Clay.
I don't know what for. Like, are you gonna move Strus? I'm trying to think what you're moving it for. Strus and Dean Wade. Strus and Dean Wade.
Something like that.
Because Dean Wade, I think, wants to be moved. That's a pretty good value move, I think, for the Mavericks. It would give them another German to be mad at. That's always good.
Always a positive. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA Daily wherever you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. Thank you to Matt and Haize for their expertise every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network your first listen. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA Daily.